when you are developing your React-based or any other framework-based project, your very first step is to set up the routes for your application. So what are the routes? Routes are the specific pages which you want to render, such as your website slash users. All the list of users will be there. If you say your website slash data, data will be there. So all these pages which each route are rendered, they have to be implemented in your website in very methodical way. And that is the objective of this tutorial. What we are going to learn here is that we are going to start with the base React and Chakra UI template based project, which has no routes at all. And we are going to define the project structure, the folder structure. Then we are going to add the routes. First we define the routes, then we are going to add the pages for those routes. Then we are going to add the containers which are connected with these pages, and the implementation code where everything related with those pages has to be implemented. Finally, we put all this thing together within the router modules and add those code, and then we will define our route structure, and those routes will be added into the app.js, so your application or your web application can start using the routes. So let's get started. Here you could see that I have these two projects. They are identical: Data Analytics Demo Start and Data Analytics Demo Final. The Start project is the base project, and we are going to work on Data Analytics Demo Final project. And both of these projects will be available at the GitHub Repo here. So you will have opportunity to clone this repo, and after that you could work on the Start project if you would want, or if you want to review the code, you could use the Final project. So here I have opened the demo final project in Visual Studio Code. I do have a terminal window open where you can see that the demo final project is here. And if you remember from previous project, the app.js is already there, which is the base template project related with React along with Chakra UI template. So first thing, we are going to install all those packages. So npm install. It is going to install all the packages needed for us to make it run. As you can see, the node modules folder is created. All the relevant packages are being downloaded and getting ready to get this project working. Installation is done. Next is npm run start or npm start. This will start the project. As soon as it starts the development server, it is just getting started. As you could see, our base project is ready to go. Here we have a responsive version of same project visible in the browser with a 400 width screen, and here we have a full page project. I will be using side-by-side project development, so you could see the changes immediately as they appear after the code compilation. Here is our source folder, and as you could see that all of our code is inside here. Our objective with this project is to learn how to set up routes. In order to set up the routes, we need to have the logical understanding of how routes could be implemented. So our objective is that user could call here index, user could call here the users or data or pages, anything can be called here, and the relevant page related with that route has to be rendered. So based on the practice, we need to make sure that we build a proper folder structure. So first, we are going to create a folder components. So everything related with all of our web site or web project or web application will be inside the components, and we can also create some other utility folders such as utils. You can also create a folder called data. So all that data will be there, and within the data, I could create a folder called content. I can also create a folder called images, so which I could use here. As you could see, within the images, we could drop all those images used within those components. Within the utils, we could move utility related code. And very first example come in my mind is the color mode switcher. So what we could do is that we could take this color mode switcher and we can move to utils folder. Once movement is done, in the app.js, you could see that path is available, and here you could see this error because the changes are appeared in app.js, but they are not saved. Using this white dot, you could see I will be doing Control S and changes are saved and page is still working. Next, logo.js, which is also an utility. We will move this also there. And after that, app.js, it is also updated. We just need to save it, and that is also available. So using this method, you have ability to change your code in a proper folder structure, which is easily manageable and understable as well. Same thing, this logo.svg, it can go to images. So we can take this logo.svg, put inside images folder. And if you look into the logo.js, it's really expecting the logo.svg proper place. And if we try to find the actual place for it, we have to go to data, images, and logo.svg. Once that path is, everything is correct here. So that is also cleaned code here. So we have built this data and utils. Now we come to the components. So component folder will be distributed across 3 different sections, and I will be going to the each section one by one. First, we are going to have the pages. Second, we are going to have the containers. And third, we are going to have the implementations. Now you can ask why this design is. So every front-end developer has some sort of practice which they follow. So the structure could be little different between programmer or engineer to engineer, but the essence is going to be something similar. So we have pages where the page definitions related with the route explained. So for example, if you say data, it means that the route related with the data, we need a page that will be added here. If we want to say here users, in that case, we need to have a page related with users added here. Once we define the page, we need to add the containers related with that page. It could have all the state management, function management, all that things can be added within the container. And then container does not have the implementation. It's just a shell to collect all the information or modules related with page. And implementation is where the container component implemented in here. So we will have an example. So for example, we want to create the index page. So first we will create a page here called index home.js. Okay, and its implementation will be inside containers. So we will have the index home ex. So that's where we will know that the page is index home.js and its containerizing module is index home ex.js, and its implementation will be in index home ex inside implementation. So I will come here and I will call it index home ex.jsx. So JSX is the place where we are doing the implementation of this code. So we are going to have the index home, which is going to load the modules from index home ex.js, and that will basically call the component which is implemented here. So let's start piece by piece. And then what we will do is that the app.js code, which is rendered here, we are going to call from index home. Okay, so let's come to the page first. I do have a code already available, so I will be just copying one by one. So that way we will make sure that we are doing a little faster. As you could see here, I'm importing the React component. I'm also importing the box component from Chakra UI React, and there is a class called index home, which is basically the definition of this index home. And here it's a React component, and it's simply returning a box with 100% width, and it's calling the index home ex. So it means that index home ex is coming from here, so we need to import it. We will come here, we will say import index home ex, okay, and it has to be coming out from index home ex here. So it will be from dot containers and index home ex. So that's how we are making sure that the page definition has connection to the containers. Now we can go look into the index home here in the containers and implement it. So now we come here. Here, the simplest form we need to do is that we need to say is that export default and index home ex, correct? Because what we are doing is that we are just calling this index home implementation as of now. So we need to import it. So we are going to implementations, and here is our index home ex. We save it. So index home is calling here, and that is calling index implementations. Oh, I made a mistake here, and it should be index home. We need to create a file called index home ex.jsx is perfect now. So now you see here that our path to here, the JSX component is working. We need React, and then some of the component we need to use them within our implementation. So we have class, and our class is as exactly index home ex, which extends React dot component. Here we are rendering and everything which is rendered here in this. Okay, at this point I can say that I'm using vstack, which is vertical stack 100%. Okay, and here is our code. That's other component I will be using very soon, and because I have added, because those are most of the components from here. So index home implementation is here. We can check this thing now. So you have seen that we have created the route correctly at this point. Now we need to call this route here, correct? That would be our next step. So we come to app.js, and we take this whole code related with box to box here, and we implement here now. So the code is all here as it is, and if you save it, and if you save this, you will see that everything is gone. Now we need to move this, because that's what we were using here. So index home implementation, we have added these two, so references are correct. We make sure that everything is correct here. So we need to go to utils and color mode switcher, and same thing we need to do with logo here. So we have logo, utils, and logo. So these two references are correct here. You see there are no errors here. So what we need is that we need to set up the route component now, because that will be called here. So the way it is going to be is that we are coming to the components here, and we will create a folder called routes. Once you have routes folder, you will be defining the routes here. So we will create a new file called index.jsx, where the route implementation will be there. And this index.js will be called here as a route. So we could say import AppRouter from, we will call it here, and we have components route index, and that AppRouter will be used At this point, if you see that code is working, this AppRouter call will be here. Now we need to build this index here. So I will be again using a template for me to use here. So very quickly, as you could see, I have imported these components. So we have, let's make sure so we have React here. We also importing some of these components related with React router DOM. Very first time we are getting the reference of router, and here you see we are trying to import the route. So as soon as we are going to save here, you will see that error. So what we need is that we need to add the React router and React router DOM module in our project. So here is our package.json. As you could see that React router and React router DOM is not added. So I will be adding one more shell here. So this is our shell where we are already working. In this shell, I will be adding npm I and React router. If you want to see the components, so here we have React router and React router DOM, and here is the latest version available on 6.2.1. So you could use a latest version, but in this scenario, I'm using a little older version because the newer version comes, they have so much dependency issue and all that thing. So I will be using the 5.2.1. So npm I, then module name and a specific version, directly install this version for this project. We have started, and right now our project is same. So we are inside the project folder. As you see that React router is added here. Next, we are trying to say install React router DOM with the same version. We can come back to the previous. I just want you to make sure that we have added these two components needed for this project. We are index here. So AppRouter is not found. That's why this error is coming. So to fix this error very quickly, we could actually write a stepped code, export default return, and we can just say for now react.fragment, and let's return it. And your error is gone because something is being returned from here as the AppRouter, and we are calling here. However, as you see that our AppRouter is not really trying to render anything because the router component doesn't really have anything. It's a pure empty component. So this part should be clear for you right now. This is already, we know that we need to have a Chakra provider with a particular theme needed in order to make the Chakra UI components added into React application. And now we are working on AppRouter here. The next step is that we have to call the pages, all the pages which we have defined here. First, we need to define all those pages. So we have index home. So we have index home, and which is react.lazyload. And we are saying that for this import pages index home. So this definition is there. Now for every page, we need to just create a route collection, the array. We could define a whole route collection here. So export all the routes are here, and within those routes we can define the path will be used as index or home. Okay, exact is true. The name we could call it home, and now the component for this index page, the component is going to be index home. So if we have more and more path, they all going to be added here. So index home we have routes definition, and now once we have those things available, so index home is defining this, and this index home is actually calling this page. And if this page is going to call the container, and container is going to call the implementation. So that's how the whole path is being constructed from here. So router, index here. Now we need to make sure that we have code which really takes care of implementation. So here path could be anything, could be index, could be users, could be data. So we need to have this whole function implemented correctly. So I have a template code which I will paste here, and I will walk you through everything. This is the template code which you could use as it is. So here you could say that I am using switch, which is coming out from React Router DOM, and this code is using that. And at this point you could say that I'm using all these, so components, okay, all the properties, and here is the route which is coming out from route, and then the key, the path properties which going to be coming into this component. So when the AppRouter is going to call, and all these paths will be coming. Default route is index here. Okay, so we have done. So very first thing you could see here that these are the suspense loader. So suspense loader component we have to add here because it's not really added here. So we need to build a suspense loader component. So we can go to our utils and write the suspense loader component. And it's a component, implemented component, so it's a JSX. I already have a pre-built code here which you could reuse as it is. So that's our loader that will be used here, suspense loader. So we just need to pull this code. So import suspense loader from utils, suspense loader. So at this point you can see that at least our suspense loader connection is working. Now we need to go look into the index home here, index home, and here you could see that implementation is here. So this is our implementation, but you could see here that our class is defined, but at this point nothing is really being returned. So you could say here, you see, say I can't find index home. So next step is that we have to implement the index home correctly. We need to do export default index home ex. But there is one issue with that, because this index home is being returned, but it has no connection to the router. So now we need to really make sure that we have ability to access it, because even right now, if we try to go here root, nothing is really being rendered, but there are no errors. If we try to say we need index, nothing is being rendered here. And depending on our route definition, index should return the index home, but it is not happening. And the issue is that currently the implementation is still incorrect, because we need to say use the router component. So we need to do import, say with router, and we need to use the React router at this point. There could be other implementation, so we need to say here, okay, and then use this with router with your component at this point. As you see here, we are in our app.js, we are calling the AppRouter, but nothing is happening. So there is one more thing we need to do. With this whole routes we are calling and we are trying to render here, we need to add one more component, and that is called the BrowserRouter. So we will be importing that component, import, you could say BrowserRouter, and we have to import that component directly from React Router DOM. So let's use this React Router DOM, BrowserRouter, and wrap AppRouter with BrowserRouter. Now you can see that our page is ready. As soon as we have wrapped AppRouter with the BrowserRouter, the rendering is done. And this point you could see that our page is there. So AppRouter is called. We can go look into the AppRouter here, and here is our component. This is being rendered, and by default, if you say home is rendering index. So this is the routes, is the list of routes here. So all the routes definition will be there. If you call another route and you call it users, but implementation is still the index home, and if you come here and you call it users, you will get same call here. But if you call something else, it will take this and it will say if it is empty, then you can use the index router, which is again calling this home. So if we had a two separate implementation, which we will have soon, and we could see a different page will be rendered here. So you might say that in this page, the width almost that way, but even in the full size, the width is still that way. So how we could very quickly change it? We can go look into the implementation. Here you could see that we have vertical stack width, but box is not inheriting the so we can say width equals to 100%. We save it, and once you are going to save it, it changes everything. So because the vertical stack width was 100%, but box was not inheriting the 100% width, and now it's here, and here you could see that that is also correctly width set. So this is how we have set up the index route, or if we try to call any other route which is not set, will come back to index. So let's take one more example and add one more route. So make sure we have two routes available with us. For that, I will add a new route called the data home, and the data home will be implemented also there, and we will call it the data. Okay, and immediate once you save it, it will give error because data home is not implemented. So we will come back here in pages and we will build. So because index home was our main page, we kept everything root, but because there could be data, there could be users, there could be several other pages, and they could have various other sections underneath. So to make our code much more modular, we will use the folders here. So we will say we are using data here. In implementation, we are going to use the data. In the containers, we were also going to use the data here. So the page, we are creating a new page called data home.js. Equivalent code will be needed in the containers. So we will come here and we will call it data home ex.js because there's a container for that. And then in the implementation data folder, we are going to call the data home ex.jsx. Very quickly, we will copy this exact code into data home, and we will change it data home ex, which is going to call the data home. But remember, this is inside data folder. So we are coming to containers, data, and data home ex. And this data home ex is being called here, and this is actually the data home implementation. So data home page definition is created, and the data home ex where the implementation is, we need to come here. So we are here, we can use similar code structure here, and we just call it, we are returning the data home, and that is here. And again, let's clean this out. Going back to the implementations, we have data, and here we are going to call data home ex. So that's path, which is also empty. So here implementation, we can come here. We don't really need all of this code. I will be just using only this. Actually, I will be using here. I don't need these two of them. And then very quickly, we just really need this implementation to start with. And let's use this one. That will be faster. Box, VStack, we are returning, close it, and implementation. Here, now we just really need to say export default. Now we need withRouter, and exact same. Everything is added here. Okay, withRouter is there, all the components. Now we can come back to here, data home. We can look into here and see everything is correct. Pages, data, data home. Now that is also connected and the error is gone. And now if we call it data, you will see that data page should be rendered. And here you could say we need to call, because there is no message here. So we could call here text font size. We call it 5XL. I am from data home. And I'm from data home. So now you have ability to go here, or you have ability to go index. But if you call anything else, it will be call hello, you are index. But every time you are going to call the data, you are always going to be data. So this is how you have ability to add modular design in your React Chakra UI based project to add routes. So this full code will be available for you in this complete project, data analytics demo final. So I will just take this whole project and I will push everything to the GitHub repo so you could get exact same code. So if you are following this tutorial, I want to make sure that you have access to full codes without any particular change. So we have concluded this tutorial. In this tutorial, you learn how to get started with defining your project folder structure, defining the routes, and then adding the pages, containers, and their implementations. We also learned that how you could use the React router components and combine them with your App.js so you could add routes to your web application. So that's all I have, and I will see you in my next tutorial. That's all, my friends. If you have enjoyed our content, please like it, share it, subscribe it. And finally, please remember, be good and do good. Thank you.